it's Thursday, and better late than never. Today we're going to be making a little Halloween pattern of a scarecrow and his little crow friend. Alright, let's talk about tools and materials. So to make our little scarecrow today, you're going to need 8 ply 100% acrylic yarn in a whole lot of different colours. So you're going to need a colour for the bandana, a colour for his hat and his stitching, colour for his pants, colour for his shirt, a colour for his face and the little sack, which is going to hold the weights, a colour for the straw tufts, and then a little bit of black for a crow and a little bit of white for the crow's eyes. Now you can of course substitute any of the other colours in for the crow's eyes if you would prefer. You're also going to need a 3.5mm hook, pins and needles, scissors, and some stuffing, as well as some weights. I'm going to be using a combination of large weights and smaller weights because the weight at the base does have to be quite heavy for him to stand upright. However, you can also just leave the pointy end on your skewer and just stab him into some foam or a pot plant or anything you like if you would rather do that instead. And finally, you will also need 2 wooden skewers. I've got those there. A written version of today's pattern will be made available to my patrons and will also be listed on Etsy, and I will leave links to both in the description down below if any of you happen to be interested. But this is just a reminder that this is a complicated knots pattern, so I will be focusing on the trickier bits and kind of just like glossing over the easier parts. That said, most of these parts are relatively easy. There's just a lot of them, and a lot of the difficulty in this one here comes from the assembly. Okay, so our scarecrow is made up of a great many pieces, and we're going to start by making the base piece. You can see it peeking out through the gaps of his face here, which actually starts at the top of his head and works down to where his butt is, basically. And for today, I'm going to start mine in black. So with my black, I'm going to start with a magic ring of 6. Then row 2 is 6 increases. Bringing us up to 12. And then 6 repeats of a single crochet and an increase. So there's our first one. We're going to repeat that 5 more times around to bring our row up to 18. Like so. We're then going to work 4 rows of 18 single crochet around for a combined total of 72 stitches. And there we go. It's our very own little scarecrow head. Row 8 is then just 6 repeats of a single crochet and a decrease. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And at this point, we are going to stuff this head, and you're going to want to stuff it quite firmly. Like so. Row 9 is 6 decreases around to bring our row down to just 6 stitches. Six. And that's why we stuffed the previous row, because now the opening is very, very small. We then have 2 rows of 6 single crochet around for a combined total of 12 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Row 12 is 6 increases around to bring our row back up to 12 stitches. It's 1, 5, and 6. Then row 13, we're going to work 12 single crochet around, changing to our blue in the 12th stitch. And I think this might be the only color change for the whole pattern. So we'll work the first 11 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 10, and 11. So then in this 12th stitch, we're going to be changing to our blue. And when I say blue, what I'm referring to is whatever color you want to use for your Scarecrow's pants. And to work a color change, all we're going to do is insert our hook into the next stitch around, yarn over and pull up a loop of that color. So we have 2 loops of our black on our hook, hold the black out of the way, grab a strand of the color we're changing to, pinch it at the base of the stitch on the inside of the work, and yarn over and pull through both loops. Tug on the tails to scooch it on down into position, and tie the ends together just to really lock it in place. A little double knot will do the trick here. And trim off your black. So that should leave you with a single crochet in your black, but your blue is now on your hook, ready to go. We're then going to work 7 more rows of 12 single crochet around, and I am trying really hard to do 7 times 12 in my head. It's 84. It's 84. 84 stitches in total. Like so. We're then going to stuff the rest of this little peg. And we're going to finish off by working 6 decreases around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And finish off. Now that is going to leave us with a little bit of a gap or a hole at the base of our Scarecrow base. And we're just going to take our remaining yarn and pull it through the front loops only of each of those 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And give it a little tug to close it off and just tuck that end away inside. Okay, so that is the base for our little Scarecrow. Now the rest of these pieces are kind of built as like decorative pieces that attach to this. So we're basically just going to work from the head down. So moving into the head pieces next, we actually have 4 pieces that make up the head. We have 2 plain wedges that form the back of the head and 2 pieces that form the face. So we're going to start with the head pieces first just to learn the technique. So grab the color you're going to be using for your head, and I've picked sort of almond tone for me because I think it looks like Hessian. So this is what I'm going to be using for the head and the sandbag at the feet. So to make these head pieces, we're going to start by chaining 2, and these pieces are worked as flat pieces, not in the round. Attaching to my hook with a slip knot and chaining 2. Then I'm going to turn, and in the second stitch from my hook, so that's that first chain that we worked, I'm going to work 3 single crochet all into the same chain. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1 and turn so that we're working back into the stitches we just did. We're going to work a single crochet, 3 single crochet all into the same stitch, and a single crochet. So our row should be up to 5 stitches now. Chain 1 and turn. We're then going to work 6 rows of 5 single crochet, chaining 1 and turning at the end of each row. So that's 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. And then for the final row, we're just going to work 5 single crochet across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and finish off. So that is one of the plain head pieces, and you are going to have to make 2 of them. just like that. So pop those to one side, and now we're going to make the face headpieces. So these start the same way, by chaining 2 and 2, then turning and working 3 single crochet into the second chain from our hook. 1, 2, 3. Chain 1 and turn. We're then going to work a single crochet, an increase, and a single crochet. Chain 1 and turn. Then in row 4, we're going to work a single crochet, 2 slip stitches, 1 and 2, and then a single crochet. And this time we're going to chain 2 and turn. So 1 and 2, turn. And those are just turning chains. We're not going to work stitches into them. Across the row, we're going to work a double crochet. We're going to chain 2 and skip the next 2 stitches of our row. So those are the 2 slip stitches we did in the previous row. And then work a double crochet into the last stitch of the row. And we're doing this to form the eye socket. Chain 1 and turn. We're going to work a single crochet and then 2 single crochet into the little chain gap. So I'm just working over the top of my chains, but you can work into the chains if you would prefer. And then a single crochet. So that's 4 stitches in total across that row. Then chain 1 and turn. So now we need to form the mouth. And the mouth is going to look a little weird. So we work 1 single crochet. Then we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to turn, and starting in the second chain from our hook, we're going to work 3 slip stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then a single crochet into the final stitch of the row. And finish off. The beauty of these pieces is they are supposed to give the impression they've been made out of like sacking material or hessian, and so we just need to make 2 of the exact same piece here, like that, and just flip one over. And it doesn't really matter that your stitches face one way on one and one way on the other, because it's supposed to look a little bit rough. And they are going to be laid over the top of the ball to form the face. And the curvature of the ball does mean that they line up properly as you would want them to. But for now, we are going to pop those to one side, and we're going to make a little hat. So to make ourselves a little hat, I'm going to be using dark brown for mine, but you can use whatever color makes you happy. And we're going to start once again with a magic ring of 6. Then 2 rows of 6 single crochet. Until we have a little nub. We're then going to work 3 repeats of a single crochet and an increase. Then 3 repeats of a single crochet, an increase, and a single crochet. That's 1. 2. And 3. Row 6 is then 3 repeats of 3 single crochet and an increase. And that should bring you up to 15 stitches in your round. Row 7 is 3 repeats of 2 single crochet, an increase, and then 2 single crochet, So it's 1, 2, and this is 3. Then 18 single crochet around. 1, 2, 3, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So that's the main funnel of the hat. Now we just need a little bit more of a brim. So we're going to work 6 repeats of a single crochet, an increase, and then a single crochet to bring the row up to 24 stitches. And then one final row of 6 repeats of 3 single crochet and then an increase to bring our row up to 30. Then just slip stitch into the next stitch of the round and finish off. And there is our little hat. So pop that to one side as well. Alrighty, so next up we are going to dress our scarecrow. We're going to address the clothing. So the next thing we're going to be making is the shirt. And that is a flat piece that we're actually wrapping around the middle of the body. And I'm going to be making mine in, I believe this color is called Mallard, but it's basically just a dark blue-green. This one here. As mentioned, this piece is worked flat, so not in the round. And we're going to start by chaining 16. 1, 2, 3, 15, 16. We're going to turn and starting in the second chain from our hook, work 15 single crochet back across the chains. 1, 2, 3, 13, 14, and 15. Chain 1 and turn. Working back across our row, we're going to work 3 repeats of 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, then an increase, 1, 2, and then 2 single crochet, 1 and a 2. So that's our first repeat. We're going to do that 2 more times to the end of the row. Then chain 1 and turn. Row 4 is 3 repeats of 3 single crochet, an increase, and then 2 single crochet to the end of the row, bringing you up to 21 stitches. Chain 1 and turn. And then row 5 is basically the same thing again with 3 repeats of 3 single crochet, an increase, and then 3 single crochet to bring your row up to 24 stitches. Chain 1 and turn. And row 6 is just 24 single crochet across. 1, 2, 3, 22, 23, and 24. I know it doesn't look like much, guys, but you're going to have to trust the process on this one. So, chaining 1 and turning. In row 7, we're going to work 3 single crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Single crochet 3 together, which is just a decrease worked over 3 stitches. Then 3 repeats of a single crochet, a decrease, and a single crochet. So that's 1 single crochet, decrease, single crochet. That's 2 single crochet, decrease, and a single crochet, and that's 3 single crochet 3 together, and then 3 single crochet back to the start of the row. 2 and 3. So that has curled our piece in a lot. That is the bulge at the bottom of the shirt because it's stuffed with straw, you see. We're not aiming for human anatomy, we're aiming for scarecrow anatomy. Chain 1 and turn. Row 8 is just 17 single crochet across. 1, 2, 3, 15, 16 and 17. Chain 1 and turn. Now in this final row we're going to be adding like a raggedy hem to the bottom of this, and in order to do that we are going to work 8 repeats of a picot and then 2 slip stitches. So a picot is when you chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now you can have the turning chain be part of this picot or not, it doesn't matter either way. So a picot is when you chain 3 and then slip stitch into the first chain. So there's our first picot, and then we're going to work 2 slip stitches along our row. So 1 and 2. So that's our first repeat. We're going to do 7 more of those across. So picot and 2 slip stitches. It's 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. And last but not least, 8. Now that should leave you with 1 stitch left in your row, and we're going to work 1 final picot and then slip stitch into that final stitch and finish off. And it doesn't look like much at the moment, but that is going to form the basis for his shirt. But for now, we're going to pop that to one side. Next up, we're going to be making the arms, and you'd think that the arms would be straightforward, but they're actually just little rectangles, so I guess that they kind of are. I'm going to be using the same color that I used for the base of my shirt, and I'm going to start by chaining 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Then turn, and starting in the second chain from our hook, we're going to work 8 single crochet back across. Like that. Then chain 1 and turn, and we're going to work a decrease, then 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and 4, then another decrease, chain 1 and turn. Now working in the front loops only, now that is the loop on the side of the stitch facing you, we're going to work 6 single crochet back across. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And what that's going to do is on one side of our work we'll have this row of extra loops. It is designed that way to kind of replicate a cuff type of thing, like it's a visual detail, so therefore you can skip this and just work it as regular single crochet if you prefer. Visual details like that are nice to have but not strictly necessary. So chaining 1 and turning, and going back to working through both loops, we are now going to work 4 rows of 6 single crochet, chaining 1 and turning at the end of each row. That's 1. 2, 3, 4. Now we don't need to chain 1 and turn at the end of the 4th one, we can just finish off instead. So it doesn't look like much, but that is the little arm. And the reason we're doing it flat like this, instead of just forming it as a tube, is because this is going to make it a lot easier to stuff it with straw, and we'll just coil it up and make the little sleeve that way. So you will need 2 of these, just like that. Pop them to one side. The screen is filling up nicely. Okay, well next I think we'd better make the bandana. So I'm going to be using this very cheerful red for mine today. It's a perky little bandana. And this is just going to help us cover up the top of the shirt, anything that might look a little bit messy. We're going to cover it with a bandana. So we're going to start by chaining 13. 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Then turning and starting in the second chain from our hook, we're going to work 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3. Then a half double crochet, which is where you yarn over your hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop so you've got 3 loops on your hook, then yarn over and pull through all 3. So that's a half double crochet. Then we're going to do a double crochet, which I think is a little bit more standard and well known. Then a treble crochet, which is where we start by yarning over twice and working it the same way as we do a double crochet. We're going to chain 2, and that's what's going to give our bandana a fun little point, but we're not going to skip any stitches. We're going to instead just work another treble crochet, a double crochet, a half double crochet, and then 3 single crochet back to the start of the row. 2 and 3, and finish off. So there is our jaunty little bandana. These pieces really do come together in the assembly part. I promise. Pop that to one side. Okay, so we have arms, shirt, bandana, hat, face, and main base piece. All we're really missing here is the leggies. So grabbing the pants color, so that's the same color that I used for the bottom half of the body base piece. And this piece is actually worked in the round again. So we're going to start with a magic ring of 6. And in the next row, we're going to mark a couple of the stitches just to make the subsequent row a little easier. I'm going to be using bobby pins for this, but you can easily use just a piece of scrap yarn or a stitch marker or anything else that you happen to have to hand. So you're going to need 2 little markers for that purpose. So row 2 is 6 increases around. So I'm going to just work this first one. Like so. And in that first stitch that I worked, I want to find the back loop and I'm going to mark it. So that's the first stitch of the first increase, marking the back loop only. Then I'm just going to carry on and work the other 5 increases around. 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is number 6. And in that last stitch that we worked, I'm once again going to take a stitch marker and I'm going to find the back loop of the last stitch we worked and mark that as well. And those 2 stitch markers will be useful in row 4, but for now we'll move on to row 3. And we're going to work into the front loops only of the row we just worked. So that's the loop on the side of the work facing us. And we are going to work 6 repeats of a picot. So it's the same way we did the bottom of the shirt. And then 2 slip stitches. So that's all working in the front loops only. 1 and 2. There is the first one. We have 5 more of those to do around. 2, 3, 4, 5, and last one. So there we go. We have worked a slip stitch into every front loop around and given ourselves these 6 little raggedy points to the cuff of our leg. But the back loops are on the back and they are still free, and we've marked the first one and the last one, and that is going to make life so much easier in this next row. So in row 4, we're going to be working into the back loops from row 2, and let's see, that one there is the last back loop of the row, and this one here is the first back loop of the row. And we are going to work 12 single crochet around in those back loops. So 1, 2, 3, 11, and 12. So you can remove both of those markers now, they have done their job. And we're going to just carry on using the loops from row 4 from this point onwards. So we're now going to work 3 more rows of 12 single crochet around for a combined total of 36 stitches. 36, like so. Row 8 is then 3 repeats of a single crochet, a decrease, and a single crochet. So that's the first one, and we're going to do that 2 more times around to bring our row down to 9 stitches. By the way, I am sorry that the yarn I'm working with is the exact same color as my background. That isn't something that I noticed right away. By the time I did notice, it was a bit late to change it. We're then going to work 6 rows of 9 single crochet for a combined total of 54 stitches. And finish off. And we are going to stuff this tube of the leg as well. So there's one little leg, and you are going to need 2 of them. Alrighty, just 2 pieces left to go. One of them's the sandbag and the other is the little crow. So we'll make the sandbag next. And the sandbag is an extremely straightforward pattern. So we start with a magic ring of 6. And I am using the same color that I used for my face because in my head canon, both the face and the bag at the bottom are made out of hessian. Then 6 increases around to bring us up to 12. 6 repeats of a single crochet and an increase. Six repeats of a single crochet, an increase, and then a single crochet to bring our round up to 24 stitches. And then 6 repeats of 3 single crochet and an increase to bring our round up to 30. So that's what we currently look like. We've just got a disc. Next, we're going to work 4 rows of 30 single crochet around for a combined total of 120 stitches. Like so. So now we have more of a little cup. So now what we have to do is narrow off the top of this. And we're going to do that by working 3 repeats of 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then a decrease and 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's the first one, and we're going to do that 2 more times back to the start of our round. Then 3 repeats of 7 single crochet and a decrease to bring our row down to 24 stitches around. and then 6 repeats of a single crochet, a decrease, and then a single crochet to bring our row down to just 18 stitches. And at this point we are going to stop and add the weights to our sandbag, keeping in mind that you do have to leave room for the base of the skewer to fit down as low as possible into the bag itself. Now, when adding weights, you also have to consider the fact that we need the weights to add up to the same, ideally heavier than, all of the rest of your scarecrow added together. So that's all of the limbs, as well as both of the skewers that we're using as supports. So for mine today, I'm going to be using one big one in the base, just to give it some real stable security. And then a bunch of these little ones as well around the edges. And then we're going to stuff as well, just to fill in any remaining air gaps. Like so. Then in row 13, we're going to work 6 single crochet 3 togethers. So those are the decreases over 3 stitches. And we're going to work 6 of them around in total. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And last but not least, we need to add a raggedy little hem to the top of our bag as well. So we'll be doing 6 repeats of a picot. And a slip stitch. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and finish off. That should provide a nice solid base for things. Okay, cool. So we haven't made the little crow yet. We're actually going to work on some assembly before we make the little crow. If you're just like bursting to get to that part, you can skip ahead on the timeline. I tend to leave chapter bookmarks that should tell you where to go. Okay, so let's start building our scarecrow, who I keep calling a skeleton for some reason, but hopefully I haven't done that too many times without catching it. We're actually going to start by grabbing our base piece and grabbing one of our skewers. And the first thing we want to do is insert one vertically up through the piece to be like the main stick that our scarecrow is attached to. I'm going to go up through the finishing off point at the bottom, straight up through the middle, until my skewer sort of just pokes out through the top of the head. We are going to be sewing a hat over the top, so it doesn't matter if it actually like pokes all the way out, but just up through the top of the head, and then you can always just like sneak it back down inside. The idea is just to make sure that the stick definitely goes all the way to the top. So there we have our little lollipop friend, but we have a secondary stick that we have to deal with here, don't we? So this stick here needs to be inserted horizontally to act as the support for the arms, a little cross beam. And how we're going to do that is we've got our narrow pinched in neck point just underneath that. I'm going to poke this stick through horizontally till it's about even on both sides. Now I intend to like trim my sticks off a little bit shorter. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can trim those whenever is most convenient for you. But that is the foundation for our little scarecrow. So next up, we're going to be assembling the head. So for that, you're going to need your base piece, and you're going to need your 2 face pieces and your 2 just plain head pieces. And how all of this works is all 4 of these pieces sort of fit together like a puzzle to form the completed face. Come here, Torty, help us out. Oh, you are fluffy little guy right now. So I'm going to designate this the front. So I'm going to grab one of my face pieces. I'm going to line up the top of it with the top of the headpiece. Just pin that in place. Run the center seam of the face down the head ball, and then curve the mouth around as well. And this is just the starting position. We'll finesse it all once all 4 pieces are attached. So that's one part of the face, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other face piece, but on the other side, so like as its mirror image. We want the points of the mouth to line up, and the tops of the head to line up as well. Okay, and you could also take time to like finesse the eye holes as well, because you will be sewing those in place as much as you like. You can make them a little bit more open, or you can let them like kind of collapse in on themselves a little bit as well, and it gets a bit more of a facial expression. It's up to you. I'm probably going to just let mine fall where they want to. So that's the face. Flipping him over, we have the two plain pieces, and once again the top pointy end of those lines up in the top of the head. They should line up down the sides of each of those face pieces, like so. And then just the last one should fill this last little gap. Don't worry too much if there's a little bit of overlap between these pieces. It kind of makes sense for there to be. And you won't notice once it's all said and done. Mine just fit kind of nicely, but then I know that my yarn is all the same weight as well. It depends really on what yarn you're using. So those are the pieces for the head. It's left me with a little bit of a gap on this side, but if I just stretch it slightly, we can get that all lined up nicely. So I'm just going to sew all of these pieces down to the head now. Now, if you're a very confident sewer, you could start straight away with the contrasting yarn, and you could do the sewing them on and adding those details all in one hit. If you're a little less confident, I strongly recommend that you use some matching yarn with your face pieces. Use them to sew all of the pieces of the head onto the base piece, and then come back with your contrasting yarn and add the decorative stitches afterwards. For me today, I am just going to go straight in with the contrasting color, because of all of my designs, this particular one really embraces a little bit of sloppiness in the sewing, if I'm honest, because it's meant to kind of look a little bit rough. There we go. And the next thing we're going to do is just sew the hat on top of the head. And just a couple of quick little stitches spread around the hat should be plenty to hold that in place. Perfect. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is actually just add straw to everything. So as you can see here on the one we've already made, we've got tufts of yellow yarn representing straw popping out of every possible seam. And that is what I'm going for here today as well, but it is a decorative step. I think it adds a lot. I think that you should do it, but you don't strictly have to. Now, you're absolutely welcome to use lark head knots to attach straw to your pieces. However, I'm going to be using a slightly different technique today. And that technique is, it's kind of my own bastardization of, I think it's called turkey stitching in embroidery. I'm going to show you how I do it, but if you have any questions about it, or if what I'm saying doesn't make any sense to you, I strongly encourage you to look up tutorials on how to do turkey stitching, and they'll be a truer guide for you. So all I'm doing is I'm going to thread my needle with a bunch of my straw color, which is this pale yellow. You know me, I don't like to stop to rethread my needle, so I'm working with a longer than recommended piece. And we are going to be adding straw to the shirt piece, each of the sleeves, and each of the legs. Now, I do think the sleeves are possibly the easiest ones to work with to start with, so that's how I'm going to show you this technique. The sleeves have two ends to them. We have one end that's really close to this set of loops, so that's the cuff, and then we have the shoulder at the opposite end. And we want to be doing all of our turkey stitching on the back of the piece, so the side without that row of loops on it. So we want turkey stitching down this edge, and maybe a little bit along the shoulder if you're so inclined. So, how I do turkey stitching. Being careful to only work on one side of the work so that it's not poking through to the front. I'm going to work a little stitch just to lock my yarn in place so it doesn't pull free. The end can absolutely stick out, it's just another piece of straw. So with that locked in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work a little stitch to form a loop. Like that. Now, if I kept pulling, that would like tighten down into an actual stitch, but we want to stop at about this point here. Then I'm going to pierce both sides of that loop with my needle. And then down through the sleeve and work a little stitch to lock it in place. So the idea being that now if I tug on this, it does not move because it's been secured. And I'm going to work a series of those loops. So a little stitch to form the loop, and then pierce both strands and work the tiny stitch to lock it all in place. we go. And I'm going to do that the whole way along this edge. Until it looks something like that. Then I'm going to trim off. You can trim off leaving an end that's about the same length as the loops you've been making, because it's just another piece of straw. Then we can cut each of these loops, and they should all be, she says, tugging very carefully, they should all be secured down. Like they shouldn't pull free. You can brush those out as well if you want something slightly fluffier, but those are the straw out, like the cuff of the arm. And I'm going to do, like, I did them quite dense at that end. I'm going to do like 1 or 2 little loops sticking out the shoulder as well, just to add a little bit extra puff. So that is what your arm should look like with the straw added. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other arm, as well as just a couple of little tufts down the middle of the shirt. Just like that, just a couple of strands sticking out. When it's sewn on, they'll look like they're poking out of the seam. And then into the cuffs of each of the legs as well. Just like that. Admittedly, I was a little lazier on one than I was on the other, but maybe one leg is a little less stuffed. So that is all of our straw applied. So now we can finish building up the body. So I'm going to start by grabbing each of the legs, and we're just going to sew them to either side of this base piece. There's one there and one there. Okay, he has pants now. So next up, we're going to grab his shirt and we're going to wrap it around this middle body section directly under where we've got our skewer. At this point, you might want to move the skewer up a little bit. As long as you've got it sort of directly up below the neck, it should be in about the right spot. And the opening of this, we want to run down the front, just like it was a button-up shirt. We'll just pin that in the middle. We want our straw to like poke out in between, like so. And I'm going to take a little bit of my green and we're just going to sew that on as well. So we need to sew that down around the neck and down the front. Like so. And at this point, we're actually going to add just a little bit of a detail here. So I'm going to take a little bit of my brown and just around each of the cuffs of the leg at the narrow, like there's like a narrow point. We're just going to tie a little bit of brown around as though we're trying to tie that straw in. This one. Two, and we're going to do the same thing around the narrow point of this shirt. So just on top of that row of picots. And it should look like it's ballooning out a little bit, and that straw is barely staying contained. Okay, next up are the arms. So for the arms, find the outside of them, which should have that little row of loops, as well as the turkey stitchings all on the inside. I want you to roll them into little tubes, and we're going to stitch these two edges together. You can use either a contrasting color or the same color as the shirt. I'm going to use the same color here today, I think. There we go, so that's one. And you should still easily be able to identify which end is like the hand and which end is the shoulder. I'm just going to take that and we're going to thread it on one side of the arm stick. Same thing for arm number 2. And making sure that our tufts of hay are sticking out fetchingly. We're going to sew those 2 arms in place. Finally, we're going to take our little bandana And just like wrap it around the neck. Once again, making sure the straw is poking out. And you can sew it in place, or you can just use these little ends to tie it in place. It's up to you. I'm just going to tie mine in place, I think. So I'm going to just trim my sticks at this point. Hold on one second. I found wire cutters are better for this than scissors, but scissors can work for it. So yeah, we just want to like trim the excess stick off, and same for the stick he's standing on as well. If it's too tall, he'll have a hard time balancing. There we go. So that's that. So now all he needs is his little crow buddy. So to make that, I'm going to use a little bit of black. I'm just going to clear the desk a little bit here so you can see better. And we are going to start with a teeny tiny little magic ring of 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. In row 3, we're going to work 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and then 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3. In row 4, we're going to work 4 single crochet. Then 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. And a single crochet back to the start of our round. And row 5 is basically the same thing again, with 5 single crochet, 3 single crochet into the same stitch, and then 2 single crochet back to the start of our round. That should leave you with 10 stitches in your round and this little beak. So row 6 starts with a single crochet 3 together. Three single crochet, 1, 2, 3, then 3 single crochet into the same stitch, 1, 2, 3, and 3 single crochet back to the start of our round. Row 7 is just 10 single crochet around, 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10. Then row 8 is a decrease, 2 single crochet, 2 decreases, 1 and 2, and then 2 single crochet, 1 and 2. Row 9 is 7 single crochet around, 1, 2, 6, and 7. And we're going to sneak just a little bit of stuffing in at this point, just a teensy little bit. And in our final row, we're going to work 3 single crochet, a decrease, and 2 single crochet, 1 and 2. And I'm going to finish off. And just like we did with the base piece right back at the start of this particular video, I'm going to weave that tail around to close off our opening. There we go. So that finishing off point is the tail of the crow, and the starting magic ring is the beak of the crow, just because it is kind of it's a shape that requires a little imagination, but I think it works well. Then I'm just going to grab a little bit of white, and we're going to give it just a tiny little eye on each side of the head. Now we haven't used white anywhere else today, so if you wanted to use a different colour, that'd be fine. Some of the red would work, some of the blue would work. Honestly, most of the colours we used today would work just fine for this. But I have white available, so I'm going to use white. Come on. You know what? I have tools. I'm going to use them. There we go. I never have this problem with my curved needles. It's just the straight needles. There we go. The little eyes. And the last cute little thing that you can do is grab just a little bit of your straw colour, and this isn't necessarily secure or anything like that, but I just like to thread a little bit through the beak so it looks like he's a little crow buddy, either plucking the scarecrow for his nest or helping to build the scarecrow by bringing him a little bit of straw. I just think that's very sweet. So I'm just going to grab him and I'm going to sew him to one of the arms of our scarecrow. And you can add as many of these as you like. There's plenty of real estate along both of those arms, as well as there's a hat there, as well as to the sandbag. You can just do what you like. You can cover your scarecrow in cute little crow friends. There we go. So now all I have to do is take the main stick of my scarecrow and plonk it in his sandbag, and take just another tiny piece of my brown, and we're going to tie the top of the sandbag shut. And there we have it. There is our finished little scarecrow friend. I hope you had fun making him with me today. I figured it was better late than never regarding a Halloween pattern this year. And he's just a fun little piece of decor. So yeah, there he is. I hope you had fun making him with me today. Okay, bye.